and welcome to ANC Decides, the show that gives you up-to-the-minute reports, commentary and analysis building up to the ANC's December elective conference. I'm your host, Mfundo Mabalan. Now here's what's making headlines today. Bloemfontein High Court hands down on the status of disputed branch general meetings in the Free State. Court rules that provincial conference be postponed. Free State Provincial General Council endorses Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma to be the next ANC president. Picture of each candidate's provincial support starts to emerge. And the SACP in Free State contests elections under its own banner, moving away from the ANC-led alliance. Speculation is rife about SACP forming an alliance with the opposition. Now, leading our bulletin today, the Free State Provincial Elective Conference this weekend cannot go ahead as it was scheduled. This is after the ruling of the Bloemfontein High Court. Disgruntled branches approached the High Court to declare general meetings held leading up to the elective conference null and void. The court found that 27 branch general meetings were not properly constituted. It ordered that the provincial conference be put on hold until the BGMs are rerun. Now, this raises questions about how this will affect the delegation sent by the province to the national conference.
The order was granted today, was being handed down today by the court. We had a full bench, which only two judges agreed with each other. They concurred with each other, meaning that the majority judgment was in respect of what the applicants asked for, that the BGMs and the BIGMs were not properly handled, and that they should be then redone. Meaning that then they also made an order that the conference then would be a nullity if it proceeded with those irregularities that were pointed out in the BGMs.
Our response to that is that my client is ecstatic. They are glad they were vindicated in saying that stick to the rules and the constitution of the ANC. So they're very, very happy with the ruling. Legally what this means, and we will still now step back and continue with the internal processes yet again, is that for all intents and purposes there is then no PEC at the moment, seeing as there's no conference, and that read along with the constitution of the ANC, which says that the PEC needs to be elected every 4 years. At the moment then there is no PEC that can go to the national conference.
We must appreciate that there has been a number of court cases, I think about 3 if not 4. There has been a fundraising of anything that people can use as a basis just to disrupt the province from the preparations of its Congress and of course ultimately being part of the National Congress. We have seen very extreme and disparate shenanigans of people that any other thing must be dragged in front of the court to prevent the ANC one to go to its conference, the legitimacy of the PGC, of the PEC itself, despite our explanation throughout. In our understanding, and I think the guidance we were exposed to, the court case and its content had nothing to do with the PGC. I must indicate that things have changed throughout. At first, the legitimacy of the PGC was questioned and it was dropped, and now the court case, as we know now, was interdicting the provincial congress. So it was all manner of things, but now we know what is it that we must respond to. And our request is that we want to go deeper, understand its content, and will then define our way forward after that particular guidance.
The judgment as given out by the High Court today in the Free State was by and large expected, given the fact that at the heart of the matter lies the kind of deep divisions within the ANC, especially in the Free State. But central to the issue, if not the reasons why this was nullified, is the fact that the PGC, which was supposed to be held earlier in the year, to give credence and legitimacy to the current provincial leadership was not followed through.
We're now joined by our reporter Giovanni Majani, who's out in Sasolburg. Giovanni, a warm welcome to you. Can you give us exactly what is the official position of the PEC following that court judgment?
Good afternoon to you, Mfundo, and good afternoon to the viewers. As we understand, it has been a very busy week for the ANC. As you've heard, the court case that was placed at the High Court on Monday, understanding the PGC that took place yesterday being Tuesday, and the verdict that came out today being Wednesday, and the by-elections happening in the Metsimahulu region of the Fezile Dabi here in Free State. So it seems that a meeting definitely needs to be held of the PEC and the PWC of the Free State moving forward. We've heard from the spokesperson stating that they just need to analyze this and move forward. We do know that they have said that those branches, these 27 branches, do need to go ahead with their BGMs in order for the province to hold their elective conference. This seems that these court cases are not going to end, because we do know that the PEC leadership of the Free State stated that in the beginning of the year, as soon as May, they were ready to have their elective conference, but were waiting on the National Luthuli House to audit the numbers. Then again in August, they were ready with the accommodation, the location, and all the relevant procedures ready for the event. And then without having the permission from Luthuli House, the audit, that would have led to another illegal PEC, nullifying obviously the objectives that would have come out of that conference. And then they said they were ready in November. We do know at this time there was the second last court case that came out that stated with its verdict that they needed to hold their elective conference between the 1st and the 3rd of December. This then moving forward, yesterday's PGC occurred where they did decide, they did consolidate, their nominations of the leadership that they choose as the Free State top 6 to propose at the National Elective Conference starting on the 16th of December.
Now, from what I'm hearing, what I'm gathering from you is that to a certain extent they do welcome the judgment, particularly when it comes to rerunning for those 27 branches. But beyond that, when you talk about the PGC, many still raise concern that the timing thereof, not a lot of them came through, but beyond that, they were sent SMSs and via email. Have they officially spoken or tried to address that issue of the timing? On Tuesday, you have the PGC. When there's going to be a court ruling on Wednesday, couldn't they withhold that very pronouncement or the results that they went on to announce?
Indeed, what has been established is that the PGC and the PEC, being the Provincial Elective Conference, are two separate events that need to happen with their own kind of logistics, protocol and guidelines. Definitely this so with the guidelines stated by the National Luthuli House moving forward. We do know that the PGC should have the leadership of the Free State been illegal in this respect. Obviously, National would not have deployed Deputy SG Jesse Duarte, as well as the NEC deployees being Sam Mashinini, as well as Sisin Dombela. So definitely it needs to be cleared out on the perspectives of what is happening in terms of the ANC leadership, the ANC on the ground, and the ANC from the Free State moving into the December National Elective Conference. A lot has been said of the ups and downs, but it seems that a bit more of consolidating needs to happen within the Free State before they move forward.
Thank you very much, Giovanni. That is our reporter, Giovanni Majani, giving us that report. And today in studio, we're joined by political analyst Kim Hiller as well as Papano Pasha. Ladies, welcome. Thank you. Now, your take, perhaps to start with you, Kim, your take on the Free State. I mean, just the question of the timing, it seems to be somewhat of a concern for some within the ANC. What is your take on them receiving SMSs that the PGC is now going to sit?
Thank you. Well, I think the ANC's guidelines and protocols on any of these electoral structures regarding PCGs or BGMs is very, very clear and very robust. And I think any transgression of those guidelines and policy and the ANC constitution must be dealt with very harshly and remedied as soon as possible.
And then the verdict itself, your take specifically on the all-important, the verdict?
Well, the verdict itself is, I think adding to a sense of confusion. I think if the court order of today is part of the ANC's commitment in that region to seek good governance, I think that's one thing. But whether it was pursued to still the voice of a particular faction or a particular voice in the province, I think that's very problematic. And I think it begs questions why this was not resolved sooner. Why has the SG's office been so silent? And why is the final arbitration not being done by the NEC-appointed dispute and task team? Why has it been escalated to this level? Because what's happening is that it's adding to a sense of great confusion and disorder, which is becoming the signature tune of this conference, and that's very unfortunate.
Mm-hmm. Papano, your take and just perhaps the implications thereof on the PEC that's yet to sit this Friday?
Look, in 2012, nearly the same thing happened where the PEC or executive members did not participate at the 2012 Mangaung conference. But, I think that there are two ways that you can look at this. One, what we know is that after National released the numbers in terms of the delegation the final delegation to the conference itself. A week after, in fact, this week, there were disputes which were overseen by NEC members, across different provinces. Now, the question is, with this case itself, did the people who actually went to court, did those branches which actually went to court go through this first process? Because remember, the ANC has different processes. The first process would be that you send your dispute to your region, the province, and then the NEC, which is escalated to the NEC. But in this instance, the NEC took it upon itself to go to provinces to deal with disputes. Now, the question is, in Free State, did the NEC go, and what were the conclusion? Now, in relation, because the court case is another factor, because it means now the court has involved itself in the processes of the ANC. Now, how do you consolidate the two? But over and above that, perhaps this also speaks to the administrative processes of dealing with disputes. Perhaps the conference itself must actually speak to this. As we speak, the process in terms of dealing with the disputes, it's mainly at a mitigation level.
Mm-hmm. But then it brings us to the PGC then. Mm-hmm. If the PGC pronounces, gives out its numbers, because that's what essentially we had prepared to discuss today, mm-hmm. that they have endorsed Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, and then we go through the list. But now with this verdict, the PGC's outcomes then come into question, that what they have pronounced, could they have not withheld those or said we cannot pronounce if there are BGMs that have taken us to court, that they have queries or feel that they were not constituted properly, then we cannot give an overall outcome of who we endorse if there are BGMs that have problems. Shouldn't they have withheld those and allowed perhaps this verdict or an internal process to take place and then after all give us the overall picture of the Free State?
But remember, what is happening is not in terms of court interdicts. It's not only in the Free State that this is happening. It has also happened in the Northern Cape. We actually saw it in Limpopo. Now the question becomes, do ANC processes stop so as to allow court processes to okay? Because if that's the case, it means that the national conference might take place next year, not now. So, I think the SG's office must be very decisive in terms of branches which go to court, because as Kim has indicated, it then creates a level of confusion.
Kim? It's quite a predicament that they find themselves in, just as Papano is mentioning that. Then do you wait for court processes to take place? And then also the question that some now ask is that, are these court processes initiated to perhaps stall processes within the ANC? I don't know, but is it quite a predicament that they find themselves in as the party?
To me, it's looking like a stalling tactic. And as the Premier said earlier today, he cannot stop legitimate processes of the ANC and procedures from continuing. And I think if there's any one province that's very clear about its support behind Dlamini Zuma, I think it's the Free State. And once again, you have to ask questions about whether that voice is being deliberately stilled or not. However, I think the default branches need to be rerun, and they're 27 if I'm not mistaken. And I think those must be done speedily and decisively, but with great transparency and integrity, so that that voice is heard sufficiently. I hear some talk about the prospect of the Free State not being represented at the national conference, and I think that must be avoided at all costs, because it's almost like amputating one of the key provinces from decision-making in December.
And but what about those branches that have had no queries? Because some then would argue that it would be a case of the PEC not being represented there, that those delegates, but nevertheless it is a negligible amount. It's not the branches themselves. They would still get to go, because if there are 27 that are being disputed, the others could still go. Isn't that so?
Yes, they can. I see that there is a call to get the BGMs resolved before Friday's gathering, and I hope that is the case, although it needs to be done with integrity, and hopefully we're going to see the positive intervention of the task team and the dispute team playing a leadership role in resolving this before Friday, so that there are no further delays or confusion, because this, I think, is affecting the climate of the ANC. I mean, it could even impact on the by-election today, this fragmentation and these messages of disunity. And I think the party needs to look beyond the damage that's being done for the conference and what's being done on a day-to-day basis.
But, sorry, Kim, if you look at the verdict itself, it does not necessarily have an impact on the delegates of Free State, but mainly on the PEC. But what we saw happening, and I think it might be that the executive actually learned from the 2012 verdict itself, because many of the PEC members actually contested as delegates in their own branches. So even if you would have the PEC being annulled, meaning that the PEC not being represented at the conference itself.
To branches,
yes,
so
they
can
still,
be
yes,
the
they
ones
will
that
still
are sent there.
Those PEC members who contested in their own branches and were elected as delegates, they will be represented at the conference itself.
At this late stage, can you still be then nominated to be the one that goes on to vote on behalf of the branch? Because let's take the chair was going to nominate, or at least going to participate there as part of the PEC, and now he goes back to his branch, and then they have to then withdraw the person they had nominated and put him. So you think at this late stage they could still do the withdrawal and put some of those PEC members to go and represent them from the various branches?
No, what I'm saying is the PEC members themselves, in the process of BGMs, they participated in their branches as ordinary branch members. So I don't think that, look, in terms of the numbers, the tally of the numbers, surely if the PEC is not, if the court verdict is going to be, it's going to go through, then it means that the executive of Free State would not participate at the conference. But I'm saying that members of the PEC, they also participated as ordinary branch members. So some of them would be delegates at the conference itself. So now the question is, what will happen? How would Letuli House take heed, to the court verdict itself? Taking into consideration what has happened.
It's certainly something we'd like to hear what the ANC nationally makes of this verdict. Now, on to the SACP, still in the Free State. The SACP has taken part in Metsimahulu by-elections, giving the clearest indication yet that it is considering contesting national elections alone. The SACP says it is responding to poor people's call for service delivery. The Communist Party is also confident of victory in its debut election. But there is rife speculation that the party might enter into a coalition with the opposition. Now, this raises questions about an ANC-led alliance partner forming partnerships with outsiders, while there is talk of unity within the organization.
The thing is, we are participating in the elections to win the elections. In our vocabulary, we don't have this thing of coalition. We are prepared to enter the election to participate and take all the votes that we are contesting. For now, we are not thinking about the coalition at all.
And now let's hear what members of the ANC on the ground had to say about the latest developments.
This is the most ridiculous and irresponsible accusation. for local government elections, in fact for all elections, there's a voter's roll. There's nobody who does not come from this area who's going to be able to vote. Why will the IEC do that? But look, our understanding is that it can never be Communist Party that is able to peddle such an accusation against the ANC. Maybe other political organizations. Because, look, we expect more, that we would know that there's a voter's roll against which people vote.
We do support the SACP for having taken the decision to contest those elections. Precisely because the candidates that were emerging, that were popular from the ground, from the branches, were sidelined. And the coalition was as a result of factors like that. And we feel that the SACP has taken a correct decision to teach the ANC a lesson, that you don't do the things on your own when we are the alliance.
The South African Communist Party, it's an alliance of the ANC, which has its own constitution. And on occasions, they have their own conferences where they make their own policy decision makings. So it's for the Communist Party and the ANC to sit and agree on certain issues that they need to agree. But if the Communist Party feels that they can no longer be accommodated, it's for them to come out and brief the ANC to say the relationship that we've been having for quite some time is not doable, and come up with solutions that they think that will be better to deal with the situation.
The Communist Party and its own leadership have apparently decided to say they are contesting against the ANC. Therefore, it means that these are revolutionary pretenders. There are revolutionary hyenas that are within the ANC, and that must come out bold and stop being coward. Because they must not say no, they don't want to contest the election, but at the same time they go to Metsimaholo and encourage their members to contest against the African National Congress.
Papano, following those clips, I mean, I don't think there's any denying that there are issues within the alliance, particularly in the Free State at this point.
Yeah, I listened to, that's the secretary of the ANC Youth League in Limpopo, Chair Selani, and he was very clear that SACP members, he called them revolutionary hyenas. I think it's about time, because for quite a while the SACP has been very empathetic that at some point it might break away from the ANC. And when we had the representative of the SACP speaking, he was saying that now they want to, truly represent the poor and the working class. If you recall, the SACP positions itself as a vanguard of the poor and the working class. But one of the things that we must be critical and we must, we must pinpoint is that the SACP cannot use the point of corruption as its rallying or as its electioneering point, because as we speak, Dr. Blade Nzimande, we have seen that he appointed his friends, his wife, Gwede Mantashe's wife, and SACP spokesperson, different SACP spokesperson into seaters of government where he was appointed. He has used patronage to ensure that he appoints SACP members. So I don't think corruption should be the rallying point that is used by the SACP.
But particularly when contesting in Metsimaholo, they've gone on to say that they're responding to poor people's call for service delivery. I mean, that on its own, it's saying that you believe your alliance partner is not delivering to the people. So what does it really say for the future of the alliance, Kim, if you had to give us your take following those clips?
I think the alliance is in tatters, and I think the outcome of the December conference will be very decisive in that respect. But just looking at today and what's happening in the Free State, which is a hive of political activity and contestation, which is healthy, I think, for the political discourse in this country. We've seen the by-election post-2016 municipal election trend being very favorable to the ANC, and the ANC has come out with decisive wins in by-elections across many provinces. And I think there's a restoration of ANC support, which I think bodes well for 2019. I personally don't take the SACP bid for this political campaign that seriously. I think it's more of a marketing campaign and it's more of a feasibility study to test support. But I don't think they're going to make much of an impact, even if they couple together with opposition forces. We've seen a very visible showing from EFF in the province today. But although they speak, the EFF, of 2017 being the year of the branch, it looks like there's some deterioration and collapse of branches, with 200, I think, members going to the ANC today, and some disintegration of branches in the Free State. So I think we're going to see a decisive win for the ANC.
Now, Papano, if we had to play devil's advocate here, could there be a situation where the SACP is merely looking to influence when there's a forming of council here, that whatever they're showing, all they're looking to do is to have that conversation with the ANC come time to form council, that possibly after getting their numbers, they would still have a conversation with the ANC as opposed to opposition?
Well, if that's the case, would they be contesting as an opposition within an opposition? Because surely they are saying that there is no service delivery. So they are saying that the ANC is not delivering to the people. So it's not an act of...
But they could be looking to influence, to say, when we form council now, these are at least some of the issues that we want to be addressed. Now we're at a position where we come with our own numbers. So you need to listen and we need to move forward in terms of service delivery. But now they don't have a voice because they don't have numbers.
But I don't agree, because if that, you could want to influence in a space where you give or you support the ANC, but in this situation they are saying that community members must not vote for the ANC. We saw it in Kuruleni, by the way. So what you're saying, it's mere speculation that this might be what would happen going forward. But the reality is that the SACP is preparing itself for 2019 election. They are preparing to split from the ANC, and it's up to the ANC to be decisive, to actually be bold and say that, well, if you want to split from the ANC, go ahead. Because
an interesting view, Papana. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. I wish we could speak to you further. Well, on to today's poll question. This week's poll question is: are state-owned enterprises captured by private interests? Do give us your answers, either yes or no, on those platforms that appear on your screens now. And that's where we leave it. Until next time.